Hey guys, Nats here, and welcome back to the Suitcase Library, where we are all about books. Today's video is about the popular thriller author, Freida McFadden. I've read 6 now since Christmas, so I'm going to rank them from worst to best and let you know what to read if you're looking for a twisted, fast-paced read that'll keep you turning the pages quickly and trying to guess all the twists. Before I rank them, I do need to point out that none of these books are stylistically well written. So there's no beautiful poetic words or complex prose, lots of typos, which is unfortunate. But all of that said, the plots are fantastic, the books are fun, they make for great entry-level thriller reading. And if you're in a reading slump and you need something easy to, get you away from your phone and Instagram scrolling, these will do the trick. The writing is ultimately clear, it's simple, and the plot takes precedence over the prose. But I think in a thriller, that's what I like. I don't mind. I love poetic and beautiful writing, of course, but when I'm busy unraveling a mystery, I'm good with a basic sentence, short chapters, and no extras, which is what these deliver. So without further ado, let's get into the ranking order. Coming in at 6th place, my least favorite, I actually own it in the flesh, it's The Teacher. Compared to the other ones, this one had the least amount of satisfying twists, and compared to the others as well, it just wasn't the same. It just didn't hit the same. It was almost like a young adult drama rather than a thriller. I think because it's set in a high school and it's told from Addie, a high school student. And then there's Eve, who's a maths teacher, and she's married to a fellow teacher, Nate. All the girls at school have a crush on Nate, and Addie has been ostracised at school because people think she's had an affair with a previous teacher. And then there's marriage tension between Eve and Nate, and things just spiral from there. Compared to other Freda books, the plot just wasn't as captivating. It lacked that tension, and I think because it did read more like a contemporary kind of high school drama rather than a thriller. It just didn't have that tension. It didn't have that atmosphere. And ultimately, I just couldn't connect with any of the characters. I love an evil character, don't get me wrong, but these characters were so hypocritical. Some of the things that they did, and one of the murders, I'll leave it at that, one of the murders was very hypocritical, the reason for the murder. So as far as plot, no, this one wasn't it. So I'll give it a 3, and I think you guys can give this one a miss. And then coming in at number 5 is The Boyfriend. I enjoyed this one. It was twisted, it was suspenseful. It wasn't quite as good as the others coming up. It's told from dual perspectives. So we have present day Sydney. She's a young woman, she's on the apps, she's looking for her soulmate. And then she meets a bunch of guys, and she's always, of course, blind to a million red flags. And she's quite a naive character. I didn't find that she was as well developed as a character compared to our other point of view, Tom. So with Tom, we get insight into his younger years. We see him meeting his first love, Daisy, and he goes through some horrendous family issues. And then, of course, the paths of our 2 point of views collide and the twists kick off from there. This one was easy. It's an easy read. You get into it straight away, and it kept me guessing right through. The ending was slightly off, I would say. That was the only thing that kept this one from being a 4-star. I will give it a 3.5. Coming in at number 4 is The Crash. This is the most recent release from Freda. It came out last month, and I read it straight away. It's told from the point of view of a pregnant young woman named Tegan, and it's very atmospheric. It's extremely creepy, this one. You really feel all the emotion, and just there's so much tension in this one. So it opens with Tegan. She's pregnant, she's broke, she's single, she's really going through it, and she goes out in a snowstorm. Typical trope. Freda loves to set her books when there's a snowstorm, but it works well in this case. So atmospheric, so creepy. You can just feel the tension, and you can just feel the emotion as Tegan goes through it. So she's trapped in the snowstorm, the car breaks down, and then she's rescued by a very strange, creepy, mysterious man who takes her to his kind of secluded cabin, isolated, of course. And there we meet our second point of view character called Polly, and she's a former nurse, so she starts taking care of Tegan, and then we start learning all about Polly, and the point of view switches across, and things just kick off from there. So in this one, Freda does a great job of making us suspicious of all the characters. Like, you definitely don't know who to trust. You just really feel the atmosphere of the secluded cabin, and it's just a really tense vibe. And I loved it. It was a very slow unraveling, and it was nicely paced, and then a very satisfying conclusion. So I gave this one a 4 stars. Coming in at number 3, I'm sure if you've read any Freda, you've read this. It is The Housemaid, arguably the book that Freda is best known for, and it is a fan favourite, and I can see why. It's actually coming out as a film Christmas Day this year with Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney, my favourites. So it's going to be good, I think. And I can really see how this book would lend itself well to a screen adaptation. It is impeccable, so wild. It was definitely thrilling. You don't want to sleep when you're reading this. The pages, you can't turn them fast enough. You want to know what's happening. The atmosphere's there, the plot's there. You're really rooting for the character of Millie, the main character. And she's fresh out of prison, and she's desperate for a job because if she doesn't have a job, she's going to get thrown back in prison. It's one of her bail conditions. So she's lost her other job, and then in desperation, she takes a job as a maid for a very rich couple. Nina, the lady of the house, treats her terribly. So of course she bonds with the husband, and just so tense in this house. It is just such a good read. And I'm going to give it a 5 stars. Cannot fault this one. We're down to the final 2, and with these 2, honestly, you could switch the places up because they are both almost as good as each other. Coming in at number 2 is Never Lie. This is definitely one of the most popular Freda books. It's one of the best rated, and I can see why, because it's just so good. The plot is impeccable. I preferred it to The Housemaid because I just feel like it's just slightly more unique. There's just a more unique story there. So it's about Trisha and her husband, and they've gone to look at houses, and lo and behold, they get stuck in a snowstorm. I don't know. I know, like Freda, she loves her snowstorms, but I must love books about snowstorms too, because I remember as a kid, one of my favourite books involved a snowstorm. So clearly it's something that I enjoy. If you're not into that trope, stay away. But they're going to look at a house, and of course it's this huge, sprawling, incredible, isolated home, and they get there and they discover that it in fact belonged to a very, very famous psychiatrist / author, Dr. Adrian Hale, who has actually been missing, presumed murdered by her boyfriend. And of course, that means that they're stuck in this house because of the storm, and knowing that it's Dr. Adrian Hale's house and now she's dead, it's already very atmospheric and very creepy. And then Trisha ends up finding some tapes in Adrian's office, and they are recordings of Adrian's psychiatric patients. It's such a good plot, and it's just so fast-paced. It's descriptive. Out of all of the books I've read from Freda, I would say this one's the best written one. So it's the most descriptive. I didn't notice any typos, and it's just the best written one out of the bunch. So this one or my next one, can't go wrong, and of course, 5 stars. And coming in at numero uno, the best of the bunch, is The Wife Upstairs. Now, before I get into the rave review, because it's super good, I just need to say there was a lot of typos in this one. I think I counted 10 typos, and I hate typos, but that just shows how incredible the plot was, that even with all these typos at the start, they were kind of in the early chapters, but even with all these typos, I was just blown away by the plot. It was that good that the typos could not lower the rating on this one. So if you like Verity by Colleen Hoover, you will love this. It's Verity, but even better. It's more well-developed, the characters are more intriguing, the plot is even more twisted, and I think there's enough differences in there that even if you've read Verity, this will still feel like a unique story, despite the similarities. So it tells the story of Sylvia, who's hired as a caregiver for a woman named Victoria, who has had an accident and she suffered really, really terrible brain damage. So she doesn't really speak and she's in a wheelchair, sort of half paralysed. So Sylvie goes to live with Victoria and her doting husband, and she's trying every day to get Victoria to speak. So she feeds her meals, she takes care of her, and she's always trying to get her to speak. And just she knows that there's something in there that Victoria is trying to tell her. And eventually Victoria manages to say, "Read my diary entries." So Sylvie thinks, okay, something's obviously going on here. Was she really in an accident? Is there something that I need to know? What is in these diary entries? So then we as a reader are treated to the diary entries, and they're laid out as the diary entries that we can read, and then things just really start to kick off. I tried and of course failed to see where the plot was going to go. About halfway in, I started making predictions, and of course I failed. It was just that good. I'm yet to figure out a Freda, maybe one day. So I was blown away. Sensational, amazing. The characters are well developed, and the atmosphere is very creepy because once again, huge house, isolated, and we're, there's another snowstorm. I know, I don't know what it is with me and snowstorms. I clearly don't mind that kind of cheesy trope because for me, it just adds to the vibe and the atmosphere. So easy 5 stars, read it. If you're going to read any Freda, The Wife Upstairs, it's a must. So those are my ratings. Let me know down below if you've read any of those and whether you agree with my thoughts or if you have really opposing thoughts on the books. I know everyone's so different with what they look for. So let me know. I'd love to chat. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.